Hello and welcome to another episode of the Bearded Mystic Podcast, and I'm your host Rahul N. Singh. Thank you for taking out the time today to either watch or listen to this podcast episode. If you're really interested in supporting the Bearded Mystic Podcast and you've found great benefit in listening or watching these episodes, then please do support this podcast on Patreon, where you can get ad-free and bonus episodes along with other benefits depending on the tier that you select. Your support means everything, and it really does help the podcast keep running efficiently and smoothly, and also widens the audience that this message can reach to. If you would like to know more about it, the details are in the show notes and video description below. On Saturdays at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, there is a free virtual meditation session along with discussion and Q&A. If you're interested in meditating with us as a community, then you can find out the details in the show notes and video description below. Please do like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast streaming app, then please do give this podcast a 5-star rating. It helps the podcast get up in the charts and allows the algorithm to bring this podcast to new listeners. And also do review the podcast if you can, and make sure you do follow or subscribe to keep getting future episodes. Today we will be continuing on with my thoughts on the Bhagavad Gita, and we'll be looking at chapter 13 verses 13 to 16. So let's get started today with chapter 13 verse 13. Shri Krishna says, I will now explain to you that knowledge which by knowing you will be re-established in your immortal nature. The Para Brahman is my supreme and ultimate energy which has no beginning or end, unlike the realm of Prakriti where everything is temporary. So let's look at the first part of that. I will now explain to you that knowledge which by knowing you will be re-established in your immortal nature. So first of all, Shri Krishna is expressing that he's going to now explain to Arjun the knowledge that's required. So in the previous verses that we've been looking at, like for example, verses 8 to 12, they are mainly talking about the qualifications to get to that knowledge, or the qualities one needs to have in order to get to that knowledge, where the knowledge makes sense and we can understand it directly and it's more palatable, right? Shri Krishna talks about how he's going to now explain that knowledge to Arjun. And he says, once you know this knowledge, once you've understood that, you're going to get re-established in your immortal nature. Now, so it's not like this immortal nature goes anywhere. It's not like it disappears and then doesn't appear. It's always there, but you're going to rediscover it. You're going to find it again, and you'll be like, this is what I am. And I've always known this, and obviously I forgot about this. And that's what happens when we take this Brahmgyan, when we take this knowledge, we realize, wait, we've always been this Atma, this Brahman. Why did I even entertain that I am something else, that I am this body? Why did I even do this? And it's not that that feeling is wrong, like that you are the body. That's not a wrong thing. That's not a wrong notion. It's when we ignore the immortal nature, which is Brahman. That's when the problems occur. So we're going to reconnect, re-establish what we've always been. We've known it before. It's already been established, but why is it going to be re-established? Because now our mind is going to know about it. Our body is now going to know it. That's when things change. That's when it's being re-established. It's already established as the Atma itself. Re-established when the mind and body understands, or the manas specifically understands, that it is the Atma alone. Okay? So, the next part of that verse is, the Para Brahman is my supreme and ultimate energy which has no beginning or end, unlike the realm of Prakriti where everything is temporary. This part of the verse, I don't know why, but it just reminds me of Adi Shankaraji's Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. This, the only truth, the only reality, the highest reality is Brahman. And this world is neither real nor unreal. It's just temporary. In the relative world, it feels real, but when you get to the higher reality, then you see that it's temporary and unreal. It's temporary and non-existent, because it's only that one Brahman. This highest Brahman, the Brahman that is the highest aspect of our true self, this is the supreme and ultimate energy behind all of existence. It's what we truly are, is what Sri Krishna is, and he's saying you are this too. We're not separate here. And then he says, which has no beginning or end. It has no beginning or end because it's not being created, nor is it manifested. It simply is. It's just a reflection of that supreme and ultimate energy. It's all arisen from that. And this material world that we see, all of that is temporary, no matter what. That's Prakriti, that's the realm of Prakriti, that's the field. Whatever is the field is temporary, and the Brahman is the supreme and ultimate energy, which has no beginning or end, meaning it's self-existent and it's changeless. Because if something has a beginning and end, it's going through changes. And we all know that anything that is related to Prakriti, related to nature, never stays forever. It is going to disintegrate, disappear, dissolve away for sure. Then verse 14, the Brahman is my supreme and all-pervasive being, whose hands and feet reach everywhere, whose face, head and eyes see in all directions, and whose ears hear all sounds everywhere throughout the countless lokas. It is forever standing with, surrounding and pervading all that exists. This is a very powerful kind of verse, and it reminds us of the Virat Roop that Sri Krishna had shown Arjun, and is kind of describing the same thing. But what we can see this as is the one appearing as many. The Brahman is my supreme and all-pervasive being, whose hands and feet reach everywhere, whose face, head and eyes see in all directions, and whose ears hear all sounds everywhere throughout the countless lokas. So obviously, first things established, Brahman is all-pervading. We know this as, he says, all-pervasive being. So it's interwoven into everything. Everything that we see is its reflection. So when it says whose hands and feet reach everywhere, well, all of this existence, all these countless objects that we perceive in this universe, is its hands and feet, its face, head and eyes. Not literal, just like metaphorically. It's within everything is what Sri Krishna is saying. And if it's here, it's also at the farthest place in the universe. It's that vast. And being pure consciousness, one is the eternal witness. So it sees in all directions. Does it get affected by anything that's happening? No. It just hears sounds. It doesn't say it gets affected by the sounds. It just hears the sounds. It just sees in all directions. Its feet reach everywhere. There's not one place in existence where this Brahman is not. So this is what Sri Krishna is explaining. There's no space where this is vacant. It's filled with this Brahman. It's filled with this ultimate reality. And, it's able to hear sounds that are beyond our reach in terms of the body. So it's what Sri Krishna is saying is there's more beyond the body, basically, is what he's trying to hint towards. And when he was talking about the sounds, like you can hear sounds everywhere throughout the countless lokas, that reminds me, in the Gurbani and also in some of the Vedantic texts, they talk about the Anhad Nad or the Anhad Shabad. That's what possibly is talking about too, that there's going to be such beautiful music, celestial music, or the sound of Om, which will captivate you. And that sound is everywhere, or the sound of Om is everywhere, right? That's another way of seeing it. So here, in this particular part of the verse, what it's establishing is that this Brahman is the whole of existence, and as we express it in many times in our podcast, it's actually the shared being. Then it says, it is forever standing with, surrounding, and pervading all that exists. This is quite important. So in the first part, we have it as, kind of being existence, being the Virat Rup, being all the celestial bodies, being all the material objects. It's basically the field. Then it says, it's forever standing with, surrounding, and pervading all that exists. So there is like this, like I mentioned before, this slight separation, or a slight kind of feeling of there's an observer within this field that is connected yet not connected, if that makes sense. It's really hard to explain sometimes, but without being paradoxical, this truth is always paradoxical, and this chapter is about being paradoxical. So in every space, in every atom, first of all, this Brahman is present. Yeah. Now, let's take it to another level. Even in space that we see, in this space there is atoms, and in the atoms is more space. So even in an object, there is space. So in reality, there's nothing but the void. But that void is the energy of Brahman. Yeah, that's the way to kind of perceive this. Brahman surrounds all of existence and envelops it. Yeah, it totally contains it all, yet is kind of untouched by it. It pervades everything internally. It is the energy within everything that even appears empty. Everything that exists, it is ever present in it and is not separate. So, like I talked about that separation is just an appearance, but actually there's a unity within that separation between the observer and the observed. The other thing I wanted to add to this is that when it mentions it's forever standing, so it's eternally there. There's not a single point of time when this is not present. So remember that it's forever standing with, surrounding, and pervading all that exists. Whenever there is an object, consider that the witness consciousness is definitely present, even if you think it's separate. And even if those objects think it's separate and think that it has separate consciousnesses, it's still that one consciousness. Then Sri Krishna says, that great being is the one who shares the sensory experiences of all beings, and yet is not bound by them in any way, completely detached, and yet maintaining all beings at the same time. That all-pervading Brahman being experiences all the actions within the three gunas, and yet is nirgun, entirely beyond the influence of those gunas. Let's look at the first part. That great being is the one who shares the sensory experiences of all beings, and yet is not bound by them in any way. So this great being, meaning Brahman, this Atma, is one who shares the sensory experiences of all beings. So through all of existence, through all the living beings, all the living creatures, humans and not, it experiences those senses. So, for example, cows can see, dogs can see, ants can see, animals can hear. Animals have the same senses we have. Plants have certain senses. We have senses. So even though we all may have different sensory experiences, because there's only one being, it's all being shared by that one being. Even though it looks like there's billions or trillions or countless sensory experiences of all beings, really it's only happening to that one being. And yet, no matter what the senses are projecting, no matter what is occurring due to those sensory experiences, this being is not bound by them at all. So it doesn't get trapped by those senses. It doesn't fall under the influence of those senses. It is not bounded by them in any way. It doesn't get limited by them. it is always free and always limitless. Then in the next part, it says completely detached and yet maintaining all beings at the same time. So first of all, it's completely detached to the sensory experience itself. It's detached to the field, to the body. Nothing is built from it, like fear, desire, or anger, etc. None of those things occur. Neither is it attracted to anything, nor does it have aversion, because it's detached and yet maintains them. Yet this Atma is maintaining all beings at the same time. Despite what is happening, is able to maintain all the beings too. This shows how powerful and potent this being, this Brahman, really is. It's the great sustainer of all, and it does all of this effortlessly. It doesn't require any effort upon its part to do this. And it's maintaining all beings at the same time. So, like, it's literally the best multitasker that's around. Literally, that's what he's talking about. And the last part of that verse is that all-pervading Brahman being experiences all the actions within the three gunas, yet is nirgun, entirely beyond the influence of those gunas. So first of all, this Brahman experiences the hyperactivity of Rajas. It experiences the laziness in Tamas. And this Brahman also experiences the purity in Sattva. So within these three gunas, this Brahman experiences it all. Yeah. It's all pervading, so there's not one aspect of existence that doesn't go through any of these gunas. So we know that people and living beings will go through either Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva, will have either all three, or predominantly will have one over the others. That is there. But who is really experiencing this? Well, he says the all-pervading Brahman being. The field that is Brahman is experiencing this. And the witness is observing the experiences of this. Yeah, because it's nirgun. And whatever actions are done in the gunas, like, for example, sleeping, talking, running, fidgeting, incessant thinking, meditating, or praying, the all-pervading Brahman also experiences all of this at the same time. It's doing all of these actions, yet, again, it is beyond the influence of all those actions due to that nature of the gunas. So, it's beyond those attributes. It's beyond the influence of any of the gunas and their responses and reactions. It remains itself unmixed, unblemished, and untouched by any of the experiences by the three gunas, because it is nirgun. This formless awareness is complete, and it remains to be complete. It doesn't at all diminish in any way. It's really interesting because what we have here, we have the gunas that manifest itself in nature. Without these gunas, nature cannot sustain itself. And yet we see that there is something nirgun. So the field is nature with the gunas, and the knower of the field is the nirgun, which is beyond the influences of the gunas. No matter what happens with these gunas, this knower of the field remains untouched, unblemished, unmixed, unharmed by anything that's going on. It's able to detach itself completely. Then verse 16, that great Brahman being is simultaneously inside and outside of all beings. It always appears to be moving, while in fact it is not moving at all. It is so subtle that it is all-pervading, and yet it is incomprehensible. It is always the most near, and yet at the same time it's also the farthest away. This is where you'll see many of the Upanishads will have this. The Isha Upanishad contains these messages. You'll have it also in the Katha Upanishad. You have these statements being made. And again, this is Sri Krishna saying that whatever he's teaching is not different to the Upanishads. It's not separate to the Upanishads. It's one and the same. So let's break this verse up and go deeper into it. The great Brahman being is simultaneously inside and outside of all beings. So this Brahman, first of all, is within all beings, within every being in existence, within all of existence itself, and yet surrounds outside this existence. And yet this Brahman surrounds this existence, yet it remains detached from this existence. It's within our own heart, and yet it's out there in the farthest star at the same time. It's, inside and outside of all beings. It's inside of us and also around us. It's also in the other objects that we think is animate or inanimate, living or non-living. It's also in that. It's like a wave is in the ocean and the ocean is the water. So it's all of those things. It's that one element of water. It appears as wave and it appears as the ocean. Same thing. It appears as this body, it appears as this material existence, and yet it is beyond this material existence. And this material existence is there because of it. For example, a seed becomes a sapling and then turns into a tree. The potential of the tree is in the seed. The seed contains a tree, and that's what it means by simultaneously inside and outside of all beings. Now, the seed doesn't naturally just become a tree. It takes time to grow, and neither can one see the tree in the seed, right? Or the seed is no longer present in the tree, right, that created it. It's become something bigger than that. Likewise, with Brahman, it's both the seed and the tree. So it's both this body and the knower of this body. It's both the knower, the observer, the witness consciousness, as well as the body and all material objects. It always appears to be moving, while in fact it is not moving at all. Again, this is said in the Upanishads, and for example, it's faster than thought, or there's statements like this that's made, and yet it appears to be moving. All of this existence is moving. For example, this world is rotating, yet it feels still. Likewise, this Brahman is, while our body is moving, it's the eternal witness that does not move despite the body moving. Despite existence moving, it's present in existence and doesn't move. It's the eternal witness. And for example, because it's all pervading, there's the all pervasiveness of it is still and doesn't move at all, yet everything is moving within that all-pervading nature, and that's how it's moving. It appears to move, but it's actually not moving at all. So amidst the chaos is the center that is unmoved. So for example, when you have the wheels, the center in the wheels that's holding it together, that doesn't move, yet the wheel moves all the time. Then Sri Krishna says that it is so subtle that it is all-pervading, and yet it is incomprehensible. We're going into interesting places here. First of all, nobody can comprehend this unless they understand that they are it. That's the number one thing, is unless you understand it, then you get it. If you don't understand that you're it, you're not going to understand it. The senses cannot define it. Thought cannot define it. The mind cannot remember it. The intellect cannot understand it or describe it. It's beyond human comprehension. It's an experience. You can only experience it. You cannot talk about it. Even calling it Atma and Brahman is a concession. It doesn't have a name. It doesn't have a form. And so that's why it's so subtle. And it's so evident too. But we don't have the instruments yet to talk about it directly. That's why the whole thing of neti, right? Not this, when we have to negate everything to only stay with that which cannot be negated any further. So this knowledge of Brahman is when we go beyond the physical and the subtle. So the physical elements and also the subtle elements. At this moment, it's like when we receive the gyan, we receive the knowledge. When we enter that moment of insight is when we see it clearly and we see it all pervading. It becomes so evident we cannot deny it. And it's so true for us that no matter if the world tells us that it's not true, we know it's true because we're experiencing it. Yeah, we've accessed that part of us which is able to understand it, yet refuses to express it. Because the experience of it is more important. See, if you express it, it can cause ego, arrogance. That's why when you have this experience, this subtle experience, you go silent. Yeah, you don't have to say anything. You see this truth everywhere, in every place. You don't have to, you can't avoid this Brahman, right? But what happens is you just fall under this deep, resting place of silence. And you're like, you know what? No words can describe this. No feeling can ever get close to this. And that's how we feel. And then it is always the most near, and yet at the same time, it is also the farthest away. We've briefly discussed this earlier. It's the most nearest to us. It's the closest thing to us. You know, I often say it's between your eyeball and your eyelid, that little space in between. It's in between that crevice. And yet, at the same time, it's at the farthest space, in the farthest star, to the end of the universe. It's there too. That's how it is. It's closer than the air that's touching our lips. It's closer than the air touching our skin. It's in between, you know, this space here between where my fingers are touching. It's even within that. And yet it's the farthest thing away from us because it's all pervasive. It's the furthest we can imagine of the universe to the end of the universe. It's even beyond that. Yeah. We can experience it when we actually do transcend the boundaries of the body and mind. When we transcend the field and enter the knower, we then see how this knower is not just all pervading, it's beyond location. So remaining in awareness of formless awareness, it's experiencing all directions, in every direction, and we will never see the end of it either. So remember, it's the closest thing and yet the farthest thing. So imagine how boundless you really are as the knower. And this is what Sri Krishna is trying to invoke in all of us, to just know that you're just not this body and mind. You're much more than that. Embrace this today. Embrace it. And that is the end of the episode. Thank you very much for listening. If you liked what you heard and liked what you watched, please do share this podcast with your friends and family who may enjoy this content. Do follow me on social media to keep getting updates. Join the Bearded Mystic Podcast WhatsApp community group to continue the podcast discussion. Details are in the show notes and video description below. If you would like to support the Bearded Mystic Podcast, as we discussed earlier, do check out the podcast Patreon page. Your support means everything, and it helps this podcast keep running. Details are in the show notes and video description below. Please do rate this podcast 5 stars and do give a review either on your favorite podcast streaming app or on our website. Details are in the show notes and video description below. Please do like and comment on this video and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Do follow or subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast streaming app. Thank you very much for listening to this episode. Let's end with the Shanti mantra and the Soham mantra. Soham, Soham, I am that, I am that. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Peace, Peace, Peace.